You're watching TVC News at 10. We're staying with developments in Rivers State, where President Bola Tinubu has declared a state of emergency. Joining me now is risk management expert and fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Industrial Security, Adekoya. Mr. Adekoya, thanks for joining us on the news tonight. Two pipeline explosions in Rivers in less than 24 hours, following threats of violence by some militants. What's your assessment of security situation in that part of the country before the president's intervention?
Thank you, Nifemi, and good evening to the viewers. The assessment has been that of a concern for some time because the political actors were not contributing to peace, as it were, and the drums of war had been beating for some time. This is against a backdrop of the fact that we've ramped up gas production ×2 of what we used to do. Crude and condensate production had gone up, peaking to close to 2 million barrels per day. The knock-on effect is that we've seen for the first time in a long time our balance of payment become very positive, all thanks to some of the efforts we're seeing and the ramping up of production, particularly along the river's axis. So to have within 24 hours, 2 pipelines go off, thankfully, they are not yet impacting on export production at this time, but those are 2 warning strikes. I think that the president is right in his action to act preemptively to stem a bigger problem, because if we have any production problem along the main export lines or towards gas production, then we could very quickly have a problem. So my assessment is one of concern, hoping that we find a way forward so that we don't lose all the momentum we have gained, because we're seeing now a lot of activity take place, production activity being ramped up, drilling activities, a lot of investment coming in. I think that the sense of vocation of the president is spot on. Nigeria has a national interest to protect in Rivers State and, of course, life and property also.
An excerpt from Mr. President's broadcast earlier did say the latest security reports made available to me show that between yesterday and today, there have been disturbing incidents of vandalization of pipelines by some militants without the governor taking any action to curtail them. What do you think the governor could have done in this instance?
Nifemi, the statement of the president is very telling. I took note of that part, short of suggesting that perhaps the governor gave tacit approval. There have been also some reports that perhaps some actors that may not be too unknown to the political actors in the state acted out in the interests of the governor, perhaps. So it's a very telling statement. What the governor could have done, first of all, was to disavow those people, to come out and make a statement, suing for peace, as he's always done, and disavowing of those people. And we must remember that the governor is the chief security officer of the state. The president retains control of the armed forces of the Federal Republic, but the governor has command to wit that he is the chief of the State Security Council. So I don't have the reports that the president has, but I'm sure, like I always say, Nigeria doesn't have an intelligence problem. So I'm sure that the president has some report he's looking at, and he's acting on the basis of those reports.
From your experience as a security expert, will a state of emergency guarantee peace in Rivers State?
At this time, I mean, we can't say for sure what will happen, but it gives a sense of respite. It gives the political gladiators an opportunity to take a step back, because as you see, in this state of emergency, both the House of Assembly and then the executive branch have been suspended. Their actions, whether or not it is right, I mean, people can have their day in court, but the president has acted first in the pursuit of public safety, public order, in the pursuit of national interest, what is considered national interest, national security. Because if you look at economic sabotage and its impact on Nigeria at this time, it can impact on national security. So that's the first part in which the president has acted. And I think that should be the focus. Hopefully, the political gladiators from tonight, tomorrow, should be having some rapprochement, some form of rapport. I assess that within 2 months, hopefully, if they get their acts together, this state of emergency would have given that reprieve for cool heads to prevail, for people to take a second look at the options that they have. Because the president did say this is for the first 6 months. And I'm sure and I'm hoping that the president is also hoping that within the 6 months window, these people will find a way forward in the interest, as the president has said, of the Rivers people. So the state of emergency may not be the only solution. As the military always say, the military cannot always be the solution to all of Nigeria's problem. It is highly hoped that, you know, with the stemming of the ugly drums of war that are going on, there's a room now for some rapprochement and some discussion. So the state of emergency is a means. It's not an end in itself. It's just a means to an end.
What is the extent of military expression under a state of emergency? The new administrator that has now been nominated by Mr. President is a former naval chief. What role do you see the police play alongside the military? Does the police have a role to play in all of this?
Absolutely. So we must remember that when a state of emergency is declared, the president in effect assumes responsibility and the federal agencies come into force. Remember that the federal police is a federal agency and it's also a law enforcement agency, as with every other federal agency within Rivers State. In the case of the scope of the new military administration, it's quite limited, and the president has limited that scope in his speech. Before the military administrator will proceed to his new posting, first of all, remember he's a retired, distinguished naval officer. He will have received what is called a presidential brief. In that packet would be the set of tasks set before him. Thankfully, the state has laws that are subsisting, and the president has said the new military administration would not make new laws. When new laws are needed, then the National Assembly would be called into action, and of course the president by proclamation will also. So I think the scope is clear.
All right.
What the intendment is to stem the ugly tide, prevent the disruption of all the progress we have achieved. Nifemi, we have achieved significant progress in the oil and gas sector in Nigeria. It's not a knee-jerk reaction from the president in any shape or form. It's quite preemptive, and I'm hoping that all the political actors will take the opportunity of this occasion and sue for peace.
Risk management expert Adekoya, thank you for shedding more light on this development story.
Thank you.
What the state of emergency portends